In today's video, I'm going to be talking about self-pleasuring, which is another word for masturbating, although I love the word self-pleasuring a lot more. And I'll be sharing with you a few different tips and tricks that you can incorporate in your self-pleasuring practice to make it a lot more juicy. So first things first, why self-pleasure? What is the importance of self-pleasuring, especially if we have a partner? It's very common for us just to resort to being intimate with our partner and not really cultivating an intimate relationship with ourselves. But I really believe that the foundation of a phenomenal sex life is having a phenomenal sex life with yourself. So great sex with anybody else really starts with your relationship to your own sexuality and your own body. And self-pleasuring is kind of like your classroom or your laboratory where you can really experiment and you can try different things and see what you like, what you don't like, and then you can also communicate that with your partner. So many of us go into sexual interactions with partners and lovers without really knowing what it is that we want, what it is that we desire, what turns us on, which ways do we like to be touched. So by cultivating kind of a devoted self-pleasuring practice and making that a priority in our life, we can really fine-tune what our kind of sexual blueprint is. And I like to think about our body kind of like a magical instrument. And we're born with this instrument, and most of us never really take the time to learn how to play this instrument, to become masters at playing the instrument of our bodies. And self-pleasuring is really the perfect place for you to start to experiment, to get curious, and to start to unleash deeper pleasure in your body. We have so many pathways to pleasure in the female body, yet it's very common for us to get accustomed to one of them. Usually it's the clitoral orgasm, and usually how most people self-pleasure or masturbate is kind of for a quick release. So we just go for the most intense stimulation, we go for a few minutes, we have an explosion, and we turn around and we fall asleep. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there is a whole world of pleasure that we can experience as women and a whole range of orgasms which go way beyond just clitoral stimulation. So my first tip for self-pleasuring is to set an intention. So often we go and we engage in different things without really bringing any awareness to them. Like things become very habitual, it's just a pattern for us to fall asleep or if we feel stressed. And I really find that if we take the time before we start self-pleasuring to actually close our eyes and tune into ourselves and set an intention, usually that creates a beautiful container for magic to happen. And there's no right or wrong intention. Your intention could be just to feel pleasure in your body. Your intention could be to discover your body. It could be to let go, to surrender, to open, to heal, whatever it is that you want to call in that very moment. My second piece of advice is to start by sensitizing your entire body. It's so common for us to go straight to our genitals, whether it is while self-pleasuring or when we're being intimate with a partner. There is usually this emphasis on going straight for the genitals. But sex is not just located in our genitals, it's located in our entire body. Our entire being is sexual. And especially as women, we have a tendency to work from the outside in. So instead of going straight to the most sensitive area or to our genitals, it's really helpful to start just by first sensitizing our entire bodies. So many of us are living in our heads most of the day. We have stressful lives and jobs, and we're constantly in our thinking monkey mind. And when we want to switch into a self-pleasuring practice, it's really helpful just to take a moment to drop into your body before going into any kind of genital touch. There's a few ways you can do that. The first one is just starting to awaken your body with your breath. So just consciously taking a few deep belly breaths, feeling the breath go all the way into your belly and even into your pelvic floor, and exhaling, releasing fully and letting all the air come out. Inhaling, really filling your entire body with that life force energy, and exhale, fully breathing out. And this is a really great way to bring our awareness into our body, especially if you follow the breath in and out, in and out, and using your breath as a way to anchor yourself into your body, and specifically into your pelvic floor area, into your vagina, into your womb. So really drawing special attention to slowly bring your awareness from your mind into the core of your being. The second way to start to sensitize our body is through touch. So touching and caressing your entire body, your face, your lips, your neck, and really going slow and taking your time. So not rushing to get anywhere, not having a goal in mind, but just starting to awaken sensation throughout your body. And what I like to do is, after doing this for a while, I like to involve all of my senses. So when we're touching, we're mainly involving our sense of touch. But another great way to awaken the body is by awakening all of the senses. So awakening your sense of smell. So what smells are present? Your sense of sight, so you can look at your body as you're touching it, which can be a very erotic experience in and of itself. What music is playing, so really tuning to your environment and really heightening your perception of all your 5 senses. Then, once you feel like your whole body is fully awake, a great place to start for women in a self-pleasuring practice is with our breast. In Tantra, a woman's breasts are seen as the emissive aspect of her heart chakra. So by stimulating the breast, we're indirectly opening our heart chakra, which is this place of unconditional love, compassion, nurturing. And on a more scientific level, what's happening in our body's physiology when we're massaging our breasts is that we're releasing oxytocin, which is often called the love hormone. And oxytocin is really beneficial in our sexual life because it helps us to relax, it helps us to feel safe, it helps us to go into deep states of arousal, which in turn can lead into deep orgasms. So I always really encourage you to start with your breast. Another interesting thing is that our breasts activate the same nerve cortex in the brain as our genitals do. So when we stimulate our breasts, we're indirectly also starting to activate our genitals without actually touching them yet. So it's a really great transition point from caressing your whole body to going to your genitals and really taking a moment to first give some love and attention to your breast. You can just massage your breasts, you can do some nipple play. By the way, you can have breast and nipple orgasms. I'll make a video on that later. But just taking a moment to really tune into your breast and your heart center. Then once you feel like the energy is starting to wake up and perhaps you start to feel some pleasant sensations down into your genitals, you can slowly start to explore your genital area. I really encourage you, especially the first few times self-pleasuring in this way, to come with a very open and curious mindset. So not having a goal of reaching an orgasm. If you know exactly how to get yourself to orgasm, specifically the clitoral orgasm, it's very common to just want to go straight to your pattern and your routine and just orgasm and done. But I really encourage you to refrain from doing that and just to start to explore your entire sexual anatomy. So you can explore your clitoris, your inner and outer lips, which are also filled with nerve endings, massaging around the entrance of your vagina. And once you feel ready, after about 20 or so minutes of stimulation, also moving internally. It's so common for women to stay more on the outside part of their vulva, but actually going inside of your vagina is also really beautiful because we also have a lot of erogenous zones inside our vaginal canal. So you can explore the upper wall closest to your belly button, which is where the G spot and the A spot is located. You could explore the lower wall closest to your back, which is where the P spot is located. You could try to find your cervix at the end of your vaginal canal and make small circles, and really just approach it with this very curious mindset. So not trying to reach for orgasm, but just stimulating all of these different areas for a few minutes and just seeing what wakes up in your body. And then something which is really fun to do is to start to combine those different areas. So you can combine your breast with your clitoris, or you can combine your clitoris with stimulating your G spot and your A spot, or you could gently caress your cervix while massaging your clitoris out externally. So this is where you can get really, really creative. And I like to think about self-pleasuring or sex as playing music. Our bodies are instruments, and we can start to play different symphonies using different notes. So let's say your clitoris is one note and then your nipples are the other note. We can start to combine them in different rhythmic patterns and different sequences to start to create this beautiful symphony of pleasure. And something to keep in mind is that a lot of the time we have this idea of like, okay, arousal is building, let me just rush to the finish line, let me just achieve or get this orgasm. But a beautiful thing to remember is that every single moment of pleasure is a gateway to orgasm. So ask yourself in every moment when you just feel pleasure in your body, how can I let go more? How can I meld into this feeling of pleasure? Because every single moment of pleasure, if we can deeply surrender into it, is a gateway to orgasm. So shifting our mindset from this idea that through self-pleasuring we're trying to get somewhere, and instead just allowing ourselves to be in that state of pleasure, allowing ourselves to meld and to surrender into this wave of sensations that we're awakening through our self-pleasuring practice. So I hope that this was helpful for you, and I really encourage you to do it a few times and to get creative and not to go to your habitual pattern of just going for a quick release, but really just exploring your body. And then once you discover what really works for you, you can also communicate that with your intimate partners. So you could say, hey, I discovered that actually I really like to have a blended stimulation of my G-spot and my clitoris. Can we try that together? So this is what I wanted to share with you all about self-pleasuring. I hope you enjoy, and I'd love to hear in the comments below how it was for you, or if you have any questions about the self-pleasuring practice. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to stay notified on future videos.